Hey friends, this is Dolmany TV. Glad to have you aboard after, well, what was Fan Day weekend and the opening preseason tilts for the Edmonton Oilers this past weekend in Edmonton and, of course, Calgary. Can't forget about that. We'll talk about that. But Fan Day, what an incredible experience. Obviously, everything that surrounded that day was absolutely unbelievable. And you've already heard my thoughts on all of that over on the Oilers Fanatic. Right now, if you have no desire to listen about Tom Ashik, we're learning, and of course Connor Clattenburg, head on over to the Oilers Fanatic, catch up on everything over there because that really is the story of the weekend so far over there. Other than that, let's get into kind of some thoughts and takeaways from yesterday. As I just want to I'm not going to break any news at 7:30 o'clock. Yeah, on a Monday. No, I'm not. So if you're new to the channel, consider hitting that subscribe button. Of course, that is always greatly appreciated to each and every one of you that views. Well, appreciate that all of the exact same. So what I got to say is Tomasek. Tomasek. That's still tripping me up. That's how they pronounced it in house last night. Obviously, that should make 100% sense. I've been saying Tomasek for however long, but it is Tomasek, which makes, like I said, perfect sense given, the situation that it is. So, Tomasek, Clattenburg, yeah, we had a lot of fun last night. Those two guys really stood out. Obviously, didn't get to watch Clattenburg play, but everything I've heard from Calgary is absolutely unbelievable. And just in line with continuing what Connor Clattenburg has done for the Edmonton Oilers in an Edmonton Oilers jersey so far through two preseasons. So for Clattenburg, even if you're sitting here saying, well, it means nothing, it means like, well, don't get excited, whatever the case might be. He's only going to be a bottom six forward. Again, the fact that the Oilers have a throwback hockey player in the organization developing who also has scoring touch. I'm sorry, guys. That's a huge thing. That's an awesome thing to see as an Edmonton Oilers fan. And then you got to think about Tomasek there as well, who I think maybe could have been a little bit better as the game wore on. I think everybody in that game for the Oilers kind of went slower as the second period and third period wore on, but Tomasek came out of the gates just absolutely on fire. I think he had probably fired 5 out of 6 of his first looks towards the net. Whether they hit or not, that's completely useless to me. It is just simply the fact that there is a willingness to shoot the puck, because we've seen he's spent some time already at camp up there alongside Connor McDavid in place of one Zach Hyman. So you have to think, when you're looking for a winger for Connor McDavid, the answer always is, will he shoot the puck at will? And Tomasek definitely did. So at least in preseason game number 1. So a positive first impression. Obviously, like I said, there's a lot of guys that we've seen already and have given us impressions throughout 2 games now, 3. And of course, Lafreniere and Lewandowski are back with their dub clubs now, but you got to think a guy like Atro Lepinin also snuck into the lineup yesterday down in Calgary and had himself a game, is what I'm hearing. So for the Oilers, it was a very positive first few preseason games, and the reason I would say that, and this might sound crazy despite the loss in Edmonton, is even though the Oilers might have sleptwalked through the last 25-30 minutes of the hockey game, comparison sakes to the first half, I would say for the Oilers it was definitely a game where you didn't feel like they were out of it for large majorities. You didn't feel like they were behind the play the whole time. Yeah, Calgary ends in an overtime, but you got to remember, you're talking about a team that is still got some really good young guys on it in Calgary. So it's not like Calgary couldn't win that game and we let them, right? So that's where I think, yeah, you know what? The game in Edmonton, you can wash that, no problem. The game in Calgary is an absolute positive, a shutout. And you've already heard everybody else across Oilers media and podcasts and YouTube rave about everybody that was down in Calgary last night. So there's a lot to like in terms of, 2 games into the preseason and starting better. And I think that's a big key for everybody when they're talking about Connor McDavid. whether he signs for less, signs for more, signs for fewer years, or signs for longer years. And there was news on that today, but again, I'll refer to the Oilers fanatic on that one, is the fact that a better start here will get things rolling in such a better, more energetic, positive direction for the Edmonton Oilers. And that would be very, very, very much welcome from yours truly, because it's been a struggle the last 2 years. You know that well. I know that well. And you know that derailed my entire coverage last year, starting the way we did. Out of the gates, slow in the preseason, very slow out of the gates, scoring, 2 goals in the first 3 games. And then, of course, carrying on throughout the entire year, struggling to score goals. So, again, okay, maybe you only score a handful of goals in the first 2 preseason games combined, but that feels like a handful more than you got all preseason last year. So for the Oilers to, at least start working on the things and start seeing some of the things they're gearing towards, and you see the attitude from Chris Knobloch, and you see Tomasek come in and look good. You see Connor Clattenburg, a young guy that's not at all expected anywhere near the NHL roster this year, to continue to look good. Now a game into the preseason, not just rookie camp. Matt Savoie, you can't say a bad word about him, but again, kind of not popping off like he did in that first rookie game. Again, that's not the expectation. I think we're starting to settle in to see Savoie in a middle 6 role. So you're not expecting him, to score 18 points in the preseason, kind of, try and run up the league lead, kind of somewhat like Tyrati a few years ago, right? That's not where the expectations are here. You've got a young guy coming in looking to stabilize the roster and provide some youth, not be a solution to our scoring woes. So it's really nice to see that. I heard good things about Ike Howard's game in Calgary as well. So overall, really just Tomasek, and obviously as well Clattenburg, just seeing those two do what they did last night, and obviously hearing what Clattenburg did, and hearing just kind of the squad down in Calgary having the success they did. It just really puts a good taste in your mouth after a loss, just because, it's easy to flush a preseason loss off the bat, but it's also a lot easier to flush watching 3 straight Flames wins against the Oilers when the Oilers did eventually win one by the end of the line. So the Oilers have, about 2 weeks from Wednesday till they face the Flames for points on the line in the NHL standings. So we'll see what happens here, friends. But of course, just wanted to rave a little bit about 2 guys that I've talked a lot about over the past few weeks, and I think we're going to continue to watch and talk about them as the preseason goes along. For right now, though, thanks for being aboard. As always, I am up on out of here. Leave a like on today's video if you enjoyed talking about Tomasek. We learned that last night. And of course, Connor Clattenburg, up on, gone.